A to Z Mysteries, The Absent Author, written by Ron Roy, published by Scholastic. Chapter 6. Dink stared at Mr. Linkletter. No answer? Are you sure? Mr. Linkletter nodded. He looked puzzled. Perhaps he's resting and doesn't want to be disturbed. Can't we go up and see? Ruth Rose smiled sweetly at Mr. Linkletter. Then we'd know for sure. Mr. Linkletter shook his head. We cannot disturb our guests, young miss. We have rules at the Shangri-La. Now, good day, and thank you. Ruth Rose opened her mouth. But, Miss... Good day, Mr. Linkletter said firmly again. Dink and the others walked toward the door. Something smells fishy, muttered Dink. Yeah, Josh said, and I think it's Mr. Linkletter guy. See how he tried to hide the register? Then he turned his back. Maybe he didn't even call room 303. Maybe he was warning his partners in crime. What are you suggesting, Josh? Mavis asked. Maybe Mr. Linkletter is the kidnapper, Josh said. He was the last one to see Wallace Wallace. A man wearing a red cap tapped on Dink's shoulder. Excuse me, but I overheard you talking about my boss, Mr. Linkletter. Maybe I can help you find Mr. Wallace Wallace. My kids love his books. Great, said Dink. Can you get us into his room? The man shook his head. No, but I know the maid who cleaned the third-floor rooms this morning. Maybe she noticed something. With his back turned to Mr. Linkletter, the man scribbled a few words on a pad and handed the page to Dink. Good luck, the man whispered and hurried away. What'd he write? Josh asked. Outside, said Dink. They all shoved through the revolving door. In front of the hotel, Dink looked at the piece of paper. The maid's name is Olivia Nugent. She lives at the Acorn Apartments, number 4. Livy Nugent? I know her, Ruth Rose said. She used to be my babysitter. The Acorn is right around the corner on Oak Street, Dink said. Let's go. Soon, all 4 were standing in front of Livy Nugent's door. She answered it with a baby in her arms. Another little kid held onto her leg and stared at Dink and the others. He had peanut butter all over his face and in his hair. Hi, the boy's mother said. I'm not buying any cookies, and I already get the Green Lawn Gazette. She was wearing a man's blue shirt and jeans. Her brown hair stuck out from under a Yankees baseball cap. Livy, it's me, Ruth Rose said. Olivia stared at Ruth Rose, then broke into a grin. Ruth Rose, you're so big. What are you up to these days? A man at the hotel gave us your name. What man? He was sort of old, wearing a red cap, Dink said. Livy chuckled. Freddie, old? He's only 30. So why did he send you to me? He told us you cleaned the rooms on the 3rd floor this morning, Dink said. Did you clean room 303? Livy Nugent shifted the baby to her other arm. Randy, please stop pulling on Mommy's leg. Why don't you go finish your lunch? Randy ran back into the apartment. No, Livy told Dink. Nobody slept in that room. The bed was still made this morning. The towels were still clean and dry. I remember because there were 2 rooms in a row that I didn't have to clean. 303 and 302. Room 302 had a do not disturb sign hanging from the doorknob, so I came home early, paid off the babysitter, and made lunches. But Mr. Linkletter told us Wallace Wallace checked into room 303 last night, Ruth Rose said. Not the Wallace Wallace that writes the mystery books. My sister devours his books. Dink nodded. He was supposed to sign books at the Book Nook this morning, but he never showed up. We even saw his signature on the hotel register, Ruth Rose said. Well, Wallace Wallace might have signed in, but he never slept in the room, Livy grinned, unless he's a ghost. I wonder if Mr. Linkletter could have made a mistake about the room number, Mavis suggested quietly. Livy smiled at Mavis. You must not be from around here. Mr. Linkletter never makes mistakes. So Wallace Wallace signed in, but he didn't sleep in the room, said Dink. That means somebody must have kidnapped him before he went to bed, Josh said. Livy's eyes bugged out. Kidnapped? Geez, Mr. Linkletter will have a fit. Then she imitated his voice. We have rules. about kidnapping at the Shangri-La. Everyone except Dink laughed. All he could think about was Wallace Wallace, his favorite author, kidnapped. Suddenly a crash came from inside the apartment. Oops, gotta run, Livy said. Randy is playing bulldozer with his baby sister's stroller again. I hope you find Wallace Wallace. My kid sister will die if he never writes another book. They walked slowly back to Main Street. Dink felt as though his brain was spinning around inside his head. Now he felt certain that Wallace Wallace had been kidnapped. And who did it? When? And where was Wallace Wallace being kept? Guys, I'm feeling confused, he said. Can we just sit somewhere and go over the facts again? Good idea, Josh said. I always think better when I'm eating. I'm feeling a bit peckish too, Mavis said. I need a quiet cup of tea and a sandwich. Should we meet again after lunch? Ruth Rose looked at her watch. Let's meet at 2 o'clock. Where? Josh asked. Back at the hotel. Dink peered through the glass door at Mr. Linkletter. Unless Maureen Higgins and Mr. Linkletter were both lying, he said. Wallace Wallace walked into the Shangri-La last night and never came out.